All right. Welcome, Dr. Taiwo. Thank you very much for taking time to join us for this session. This is going to be a 20 minutes interview, and we just like to dig into your experience a bit and your background to understand how we can leverage ourselves, as young men to become more responsible in the society that we have found ourselves in today. Like we said earlier, there's a dearth of young men or young, driven men living meaningful lives in the society today. And we want to start that journey where we begin to raise men again to become models in society. And we'd like to use this session just to draw from your own wealth of experience to light that up. So to start, let me just first ask you this question. What has been your biggest driver in life? And I say that because I know you very well. We've known each other for 20 years. And all through the 20 years I've known you, there's never been a time where you've not been driven, passionate, trying to accomplish something. What drives you? What is the biggest motivation for you?
Thank you very much for the question and for giving me the opportunity to address young men. This is truly a passion for me, seeing young men live their fullest lives. Because I believe when young men live their fullest lives, the society will live fully. Strongly believe that. My biggest driver has been that it's a curiosity as well too. Is I really want to know how far I can go. I really do want to know how far I can go. I don't consider myself smart. People think I am. I don't consider myself strong or wise or anything. But I really just believe that if I could push myself a little further, I might achieve results that would frankly astound myself. So I would say my biggest driver has been that question of how far can I go? How far can I truly go if I maybe spend one more hour, if I read one more book, if I talk to one more person, if I apply to one more job, what can I get? What are the possibilities? That curiosity more than anything else has been my driver.
And have you surprised yourself? And that is coming from, wanting to see how far you can go. Do you think you've come to a point in which you are like, okay, I've always known 15 years ago that I can come this far, or wow?
I've surprised myself several times. There is this thing called the imposter syndrome, where you in a place and you think, what am I doing here? I think I'm not supposed to be here. And 20, I got to Ife, actually on my birthday, July 27, 2000. And that's over 21 years ago. And even though I didn't know that big word, imposter syndrome, then I felt like that then. And I went to a public secondary school. I never had a physics teacher. Nobody ever sat in front of me to teach me physics in secondary school. I taught myself further maths. Um, I still make fun that we had an English teacher that we use Yoruba to teach us English. You say, Sherry, Oroyi, no ni now. And that was kind of secondary school I went to. And for me to find myself in Obafemi Awolowo University Chemical Engineering program, I felt like I was out of place. So that was the very first time I think I surprised myself, and since then I've always surprised myself. I was in college with people that went to the best secondary school in Nigeria, as you know, and just for me to finish with a first class, and I had a couple of prizes even at graduation. I still pinch myself sometimes when I think about it. So yes, I think I've surprised myself. Did I think I could? Yes. It wasn't like total surprise, like, oh, I was just playing video game, for 5 years and then I ended up with a first class. No, that didn't happen. But that the fact that it still happened, it still surprises me. And those are just examples from way back when. Even today, I still pinch myself. I have a team I lead a team of people that went to MIT, Stanford, Harvard, Berkeley, and this is just me that just went to Ife, leading them. And I just, I sometimes I think I'm daydreaming, but this is a feeling I've had for 20 years now.
Awesome. No, that's pretty impressive, and I'm happy to hear that. There's still that. Wow, that means you are really exceeding your own expectations. And even in the world of work, we know that exceeding expectation is what's what you want to aim for. So it looks like you are still exceeding expectations. So that's great. Let me talk a bit about your learning journey. So I said in the the panel conversation we had that over the last 20 years that I've known you, one thing that has been very consistent has been your passion for knowledge. I mean, you are probably one of the most passionate learners, if there's any word, if there's a word like that I know, consuming information, consuming knowledge. But at the same time, I know it's not all knowledge that you consume. It's very targeted, it's very focused. So can you tell me a bit more about your targeted learning approach? How do you know what to learn? And when you figure out what to learn, how do you go after it?
That's a very good question. And someone asked a question which is different, but the same thread runs through both. Yeah, when I think someone asked a question about how do I maximize this mentoring opportunity that I have, it always comes down to being very clear about what you want out of life. For me, what I've always wanted is to go so far that I can pull others along, and to see how far would my talent take me, how far would my education take me, how far can I go. And I want to go so far that I can pull others along. And so for me, I will look at okay, this is what I know today. This is what I still need to know for me to get a little ahead. So that drives the kind of books that I need to read for that time. And so if I know, okay, I want to become better in speaking, then there is already the type of books that's going to drive. One of the books I've read a lot more of in the last 2-3 years will be books on energy transition. What's all this green energy, renewable energy about? Climate change. When I was growing up, is global warming. What are the facts? And I try to read from different sources so that I can have a good informed opinion. So what drives me first is it always has to start with having a clear idea of where you want to go. Then books would be one of the ways you get there.
And would you say,
by the way, and this is, some people like to read novel, and that's fine. But I can tell you that I've never read a novel. As much as it looks like I read so many books, I've never read a novel. Because to me, a novel is for entertainment, right? And if I want to entertain myself, I watch a movie. And I know people say, oh, you have to read the book. It's more interesting in the books. I know that, But that has to come to the targeted learning that you talk about.
yeah,
You think, given the amount of book I read, I will have read so many novels. No, I have not. I just pick the books. I pick the books that I think will get me to where I'm going.
You didn't catch on the wave of all those Frank Perettis we used to read in Ife then.
No. And you guys will be shuffling books and like, oh, you have to read this one. Oh, you have to read that one. I never did catch on. I would even if there is like a TV series or a very nice movie and people are like, oh, trust me, you're missing out if you don't read the book. I was like, trust me, I can't read the book. I just can't
stick with the movie.
I will stick with the movie. I know maybe the movie might not be the better version, but I just can't bring myself to sit down and read something I know is made up. My girls, they've read plenty of books and they're all made up. They're all pictures.
Interesting. On this subject of learning still, it's a daunting thing. And I'll explain what I mean by that. You just talked about you trying to understand the whole idea of energy transition, and you read multiple books, just to cross-fertilize knowledge, and that gives you a full perspective. But the reality is people look at that as really daunting. And I've tried to pick up books on climate change and all that as well. And you see those books, they're not easy to read books. They have hard, tough materials. How do you go about it?
Read it, and if okay, I'm going to divide it into two. Read the book. If the author is still alive, follow the author, which is very easy to do these days. The author will probably have a LinkedIn page, a Twitter page, and things like that. So read it, maybe you catch 25%. That's okay. After all, this is nobody's squeezing you like that on it. And then start following the author. They might give some interview on YouTube. They would tweet something on Twitter, and then you begin to understand more and more what they were talking about in the book. The truth is that authors they know what you've just said. They know they've written a 700-page book, and they know very few people are going to read it. So what they will do is they will take some of the excerpts from the book and they post it on their social media feed. And then somebody will interview them like you're interviewing me, and they will say some part of the book. So I would say if you see a book that you really like and it's just dense or it's just big or something, try to follow the author, and you will catch the main idea of that book. Now, if it's a book that the author is dead, like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and things like that, find discussion forums where that book is being discussed. Join those forums and just listen to what people are saying back and forth about it. So those are the ways that you can go about it. Now, one more thing. Contact the author as well. If the author is alive, don't be afraid to do so. People talk about mentors. That's one good way to ask somebody to be your mentor. And I know this because I've done it several times. Even people that you would not think would reply you. Good to Great, Jim Collins, right? He's written so many books. Built to Last. Those are the books he's written, and he's a very popular person. Just email him. Say, hey, Dr. Collins, I read your book. I like this. I like how you analyzed P&G and Coca-Cola. What do you think about X or Y? They're going to respond to you. Boom.
Interesting.
Once they respond, you ask another question. Now you have the great Professor
Jim
Collins, who wrote this blockbuster bestseller, back and forth email. I've done that a few times.
The funny thing from what you just said now, or what I find quite interesting is people like answering questions that they feel will shed light, to other people, especially when they see that the question is coming from the place of curiosity. You really want knowledge, not just from you trying to show off what you know or what you don't know. It's really coming from the place of knowledge. But so what you said now is quite profound. Being able to reach out to these people and drop the questions and see if they will come back to you. And more often than not, from what I hear from you, is they probably would respond.
Yeah, don't just say, "Oh, I read your book and I like it." No, anybody can say that. Say something that shows that you've really read the book. Say, I like how you, went into the history of World War II and drew a parallel between that and the Vietnam War. And how will you place that in the context of what just happened in Afghanistan? Something like that. Something that they know that it's not that you're just hand wavy. So you have to do the work, especially if you want serious people to take you seriously. You have to do the work.
And how would you say platforms like YouTube for learning? What I find is that you go to YouTube, you can get lost. you go there to find A, you find yourself, on Britain's Got Talent, and you are laughing. You are laughing your way off. How do you think YouTube is a very effective way of learning, and how do you keep yourself within the narrowed scope of learning on that platform?
Yes, it is. It's like anything else, like any tool. You could use it to hurt yourself, or you can use it to help yourself. That goes for
Correct.
any tool. Fire, electricity, vehicle. YouTube is just another tool. I'm going to sound repetitive now, but the way you pick the good videos and not waste time on YouTube is to be clear on what you want. If you're going on YouTube to relax, you've had a difficult day at work, you've studied, you want to relax, there is nothing wrong with watching Britain's Got Talent on YouTube. You are there to relax. If you're on YouTube to learn options trading, how to sell, put, how to buy calls, you're not there for Britain's Got Talent. I'm on YouTube because I want to learn options trading. You go on there, you type options trading, you look at the ones with maybe the most number of views. If it has a lot of views, it probably is good. That's why it has a lot of views. And you watch it and you take notes. And if you think you've gotten what you want, good. If you think maybe you need another video on another aspect, go. But it always has to come from, what do you want? That question, what do you want, is so simple and yet so difficult. But once you do the difficult job of answering what you want, really life just takes on a whole different level. It simplifies your choices. It simplifies your choices in so many ways.
Interesting. I'm sure you've heard of the concept of polymath, and this is, Elon Musk is one of the biggest proponents of, being a polymath, and is the ability to be able to read quite diverse topics. And it meshes together and it begins to give those light bulb moments, your ability to bring physics together with biology, combine it with energy, green, and and all of a sudden you're coming up with new ideas that never existed before. What are your thoughts on that?
It sounds very, I don't want to call it, it sounds very sexy. It's difficult to pull off in practice. My advice will be, try to be an expert in one thing. Try to be very good in one thing. If it's physics, be very good in physics. Then use your networking skills to bring an expert in biology, an expert in math into the same room with you or into the same Zoom call, and then come up with a great idea. You don't have enough time of the day to be so good in physics, so good in math, so good in biology, so good in accounting, that only you will now come up with something awesome. No, everything doesn't have to reside in you. Now, should you know at least something about biology? Yes. Should you know something about, programming? Yes, you should. But not, I don't think you know enough for you to come up with something awesome in that field. But if you just know a little bit of a field and you know it so well, then number one, it gives you confidence, right? Nobody can just push you around in that one thing. And then use your networking skills to bring other disciplines to work with you. And then you can create something truly innovative.
Interesting. I think it's a good segue for us to go into the subject of networking. And you just talked now about using your networking skills to bring people together. And the concept of networking is as diverse as the number of people talking about it. And it's sometimes it could be daunting. And I wouldn't lie to you, even me myself. There was a point in time in my life that networking was a very tough subject. What are your thoughts? How would you broach the subject of networking? How has it affected you? How have you approached it typically? In your career, family, broader network, how have you approached it? Sorry, one more thing I wanted to say is With the empty scholarship, one of the things I noticed is your ability to pull people together. You are not doing it yourself. There are a lot of people that are, a lot of smart, intelligent people that are helping you behind the scene and doing a lot of work. And there has to be a reason why they are doing it. It's not just because, I'm sure you don't pay them, to do it. It's your colleagues, they are
Some of them
volunteering
are
their
actually
time.
putting their money too.
You see, so it will be interesting to understand how you have built that kind of network around yourself.
Okay, so let me first answer the work kind of network and then the empty scholarship network. So for the work, it comes down to, again, what do you want? There was a time somebody told me that, Michael, you need to start networking with all the Black leaders in Shell in the US, and I was like, that's so true. I should start networking with them. And I was thinking of putting 30 minutes every 2 weeks meeting with people. And then I came down and I said, but what will I be discussing with them? And then I was like, we talk about what? And so I ended up not doing it. Now, if there is something that is going on that I feel like is good for that we can discuss, then I either send them an email or set up a meeting and then we discuss that one thing. But setting up a regular 2-week meeting just because I want all the Black leaders in Shell to know me, that just didn't work for me. Again, it goes back to what I'm saying. What do you want? So let what you want drive your networking strategy, just like it drives the videos you pick on YouTube, just as it drives the books you pick to read. Let what you want drive that. But you do need a network because you are not an island and you don't have all the information. The current job I have right now with Shell, I got it because a friend of mine, which is also my teammate, by the way, my colleague, we report to the same manager, told me about it. He said, Michael, I saw this job, and as I was reading the job description, the only person I can think about is you. And I think you'll be good at it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Because I loved what I was doing then. I was very good at it. And I wasn't really keen to get something else. But you kept pushing, Like, Michael, the deadline is, in 2 days. And then just to satisfy my friend, I applied for the job I have right now. Just to shut him off, to be honest. And then after I applied, I started looking at it and I said, it's kind of a big deal. And then, then I started getting serious and the rest is history. 100 people applied and they only need one person because only one person can be the manager. But I got it because of my network. And I want to say that because I want to link it back to something one of the panelists said, which is so true. Be very good at what you're currently doing for you to get your next job. If I were not a good senior engineer, my colleague would not have felt that I was good enough for this other job. So I wouldn't, because and so many companies are like this. If you're looking for a job inside the company, that is like a website you go into inside the company and you look for all the jobs that people are posting. So he was always looking. I wasn't looking because I was just happy with my job. So I would not have known about that job, even though it was posted internally in the company. But it was one that saw it and gave it to me and showed it to me. But it was because I was good at my job. That's why I knew that I would be good at this job. That's number one. And number two, people talk about treating everybody with respect. Even if I were good at my job, but I was disrespectful to him, or I always try to compete with him because he's my colleague, I don't think he will have showed me that opportunity. So be good at what you do and be nice. Be nice. Knowledge puffs up. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be you. Okay, so the empty scholarship is really clear. I think people buy into it because they see the vision. The vision is very clear, which is to connect very bright motivated students that are indigent to their dreams. So we don't want the fact that because people just don't have money, or they don't have somebody in the US, or they don't have somebody in UK, to keep them from pursuing graduate studies. Graduate studies is not for everybody, I know that. But for people who want to do that and who wants to do it abroad, and they have shown by their track record that they are serious students, the last thing we want is lack of privilege, lack of information, lack of money to be the barrier. It just shouldn't be. There is something wrong with that picture, and we're trying to correct it. And I think people like that. And so people say, okay, so how can I help? I'm like, I need a website. Yeah, I can help you develop the website.
That's so profound. That is really, really profound. And from what I hear you just say now is the vision. You are very clear with the vision, and people bought into the vision. So in the place of networking as well, there needs to be that clarity of what you want. It still boils down to what you say, clarity on what you want. Once you do it, you know what? I think when we were in Fed, we used to talk about that story of if you go into a crowd and you just stand and you just face one direction and you're just looking. Very soon, people will start coming behind you to be looking at what exactly is this guy looking at, just to see what you're looking at. So, you know, that vision seems to be very clear, and people are just connecting to it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, even personally, I've thought several times to change the name to something else. You know, something more. When I find a good name, I'm going to change it. I mean, there is
no one is complaining.
Sorry.
I said no one is complaining about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like my name out there. You know, I don't like my name out there. But the very first year we started it, the guy that was helping me to put it together, I said, "So what is it going to be called?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I've not thought that far. Like, maybe we should just call it Michael Taiwo Scholarship for now." I'm like, "Yeah, for now." And it's 3 years later now.
No, it's how many students have gone through the program now?
The first year was 7, last year is 23, and this year is 36. Actually, 36. After this interview, in the next few hours, I'll publish their names so that people will know who they are.
So there are 86 successful.
36.
36 successful. Oh wow, that's brilliant. And how many people have eventually gotten into programs in the US or in the UK till date?
Yes, we have scholars in South Africa, Saudi Arabia, France, Canada, the US. And the reason I mention all those countries first is people always think it's a US thing. We have scholars everywhere. For the 2019 set, the success rate has been 50%. So 4 out of the 7 in 2019, they are all in different schools. And you say, okay, so what happened to the remaining 3? So remember that these kids are very smart. They're very good. So what usually happens most of the time is they get a good job in Nigeria and they just don't feel like living anymore.
Okay.
So there's nothing.
It's a win-win. I mean, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, so like some of them will be like, oh, you know what? Last year there are 23 winners. 11 of them are somewhere now. 3 or 4 of them will be somewhere by January, and some are shooting for next fall. So it's still too early to actually say people. But I can already tell you, out of the 23, 2 of them got really good jobs in Nigeria. And they've come back to me to say, I'm very sorry, I think I'm going to delay going to grad school for a few years. We talked about it, and eventually, it's their decision.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think what you give them the wings to fly, and I think that is really, really altruistic of you, and your team. That's really, really appreciated. If we go to the final subject of mentorship, You you are probably one of the first people I had that word from, that if you want to see far, you stand on the seats or shoulder of giants. I think you even wrote it somewhere in school, if I remember
Oh
correctly.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's one of my very, very first
exactly.
quotes. These exploit makers flyers usually have it.
Exactly.
And if you go on the MT Scholarship website, that's the first thing that greets
Aha,
you.
you see. So tell me one mentor. Tell me about one mentor that has impacted your life remarkably.
Interestingly, is a mentor that is close to me and is my brother-in-law. His name is Dr. Awufeko. So I have three elder sisters. So my elder sister, this is our husband, is just so humble. Is very calm. And when I still remember, over 20 years ago now, when I first met him, I was afraid of him because that was the first time in my life I will actually meet somebody that is godly. Like when you say somebody is just godly in the way he lives. And I was just like, and people always have this stereotype that people who are quiet, you should be afraid of them because the day they get mad. Well, I've
Yeah.
known this guy for over 20 years. He's never gotten mad. He's just that kind of a person. He's just like, okay, all right. Like he's just so mellow, so chill, and very accomplished. Like I said, he's a very good Christian. Um, just even-headed, humble, doesn't take himself seriously. I respect him a lot, and I would say just looking at him and just I had the opportunity also to live with them for a brief while in Lagos. I just said I want to be him. You know, he's not an engineer, so it's not like I want to be him like an engineer, but I just want
Yes.
to be like him. I want to act like him. Uh, I I feel I'm not as chill as he. I'm not as chill as he is. But I want to be that good person, just a good human being, just a good godly Christian that he is. He's somebody I look up to a lot. I would say I've stood on his shoulders in that regard.
Yes, I hope he gets to hear this.
I tell you, I tell you. And then he's just going to say something funny, like, that's just him. It's just good. I respect him a lot.
Yeah, in the earlier interview we had, I was talking about a video of Simon Sinek that I watched, that he was saying that in building that relationship with your mentor, it has to come from a place of friendship. Just saying be my mentor doesn't work. There has to be a mutual flow. But a confusion that most younger people that are reaching out to mentors have is, what do I have to offer? It's a big question that is on many people's mind. At least that's been on my mind, at some point in my life. That what do I have to offer to this person that will make the relationship worthwhile? What are your thoughts around that?
It's very good. And I think Koye mentioned something along that line. Look at if it's somebody so high up in the organization, you can offer them the perspective of somebody low in the organization. Because the higher up people go, the more they kind of lose perspective. I mean, most of their days is spent in meetings, PowerPoints, all this, and sometimes it makes them to be detached from what is really going on. And they know if that person is a good leader, they know they are getting more and more removed from reality. So if you are lower in the organization and you are close to the reality, be frank and say, I want you to mentor me, and I think you would get to see from my eyes. Let's say you're working in the plant, so you're actually on the factory floor, and this person is like the plant manager or the GM of operations. You can say, I'll get to share with you how a typical day of a plant operator truly is. You get to hear it from me. You won't get to hear it as a PowerPoint or as a statistic. That's something you don't think that you can offer, but really you can offer them that perspective. If you have a particular skill, go ahead and offer it. If you're a graphic designer, say, hey, I know how to design things. If it's blog, I know how to, and that I've appreciated that, especially for me in the MT scholarship. People come to me all the time and say, I'm a content writer. And I'm saying, okay, good. Go and write an article for us that we can post on our social media. Right now, as I'm speaking with you, someone is designing the graphics for all the winners this year, and hopefully we can share it in a few days. And it's all volunteer driven. So there is always something you can offer. If nothing else, just the gift of your perspective, which will be different from theirs.
Brilliant. These are some of the things I wanted to get to, to go to those, what are the exact things that can be done? I'm not just speaking on a very cursory level, but, something people can engage with and reach out to. So what I'm hearing from you is that people can really, we all have something to offer. We all have something to give, no matter how little it is. First of all, if we've identified mentorship as what do I need from this mentorship? It's clear, like you've always been saying, I'm clear on what I want from this mentorship. Then you are going into it saying that this is why I want you as a mentor. So the person even knows why, and then you're saying this is what I can offer you, and you continue to do that over time.
Let me give you another example in that regard. I told you about contacting authors, right?
Yes.
So there is this book I read. I've forgotten the name of the book, and I have 2 or 3 of his books. Leadership, okay, power. Let me actually show you. So this guy, Jeffrey Piper.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a well-known professor here, and he has a column in Fortune magazine. So he wrote this Power and then Leadership BS. When I read Power, I contacted him and I said, I noticed that most of your examples are from the software industry and things like that. I said, in a future edition, if you're thinking of oil and gas, I will be happy to link you up with somebody here in my organization so that I can get example from oil and gas. He replied me like 20 minutes later after that email. Those are the kind of things people like to hear.
This is a fantastic example. Fantastic example.
Okay, that's true. And it's true. He's in California, right? So I can understand most of his examples were from the software industry,
yeah, exactly,
and things like that. Like, look, what you're saying, I can connect with it, and I'm in oil and gas. And guess what? It goes both ways. He never took me up on that offer, but he started our relationship. But if he had said, okay, now I want to interview somebody high up in your organization, I'm just going to go right up to the executive vice president and I'll say, hey, Professor Piper, who is the author of this bestseller, wants to interview you. Now I have a mentoring relationship with the executive vice president of the Royal Professor, just by connecting both of them.
Correct. Brilliant.
Like that's that, I've made example. Something out of nothing.
Brilliant. And what you just said now, the way many people would have thought about it is, man, I have this professor. If he wants to interview anybody, let him come and interview me. You lose the opportunity to build another relationship up, through that. It's brilliant. Thank you very much for that perspective. Very apt. Very, very apt. I think we've come to the end. My last question is the same question I always like to ask, when I have this kind of conversation, which doesn't happen all the time with somebody like you, that we can get perspective from. What are you looking, you might not give us all the details, but what do you see yourself doing over the next 2, 3, 4 years? What is the next hurdle, the next thing you want to jump through? And how is that keeping you awake at night?
This is interesting too, because it depends on what, so I'm going to say at work, right? So at work, what I want to achieve is I've been tasked to lead the hydrogen business for a multinational company in North America. And that's a business that people are still very skeptical about. So I want to lead the industry in the next 2-3 years. I want, when people think, hydrogen, I want them to think, okay, this is a viable energy source that is economical, that is good for the planet, and that is sound. I want some of the doubts that are clouding the business as an industry to be removed. Of course, I'm leading it for my company, but I'm actually also leading the industry, because the industry just right now is very few players. So being a thought leader in for the hydrogen industry for North America, probably for the world, and pushing it in that right direction, so that I can make a good case for it. Professionally, that's where I want to be in 2-3 years.
Brilliant.
For the MT scholarship, and we've started doing that a little bit this year. This year, 2 of the winners are non-Nigerians. One is from Ghana, one is from India. I want this to be truly international. I think majority of the winners will still be Nigerians, but I want it to be truly international, because that vision doesn't know geography. The fact that the accident of birth shouldn't be destiny. Where the zip code of where you were born shouldn't be where you end up. It should bear little relation. And if you've done good for yourself, proving it with good college grades and desiring to go further, nothing should be in your way. And if there's something in your way, we should try to remove it from you. If that is true for a kid in Ajegunle, then it's true for a kid in the slums of Mumbai or in the shanty towns in Brazil. So that is something I want to make truly international in the years ahead.
Thank you very much, MT. Really appreciate your time. I appreciate all the very, very insightful words you've shared with us, the perspectives, the experience, the nuggets. It's all very profound. And I'm sure all the people that will be listening to this video will also really, really appreciate the thoughts you've shared with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. And I can't say enough good things about you. People don't. When I was young, I always wonder, why is it that 2 people born on the same day, same town, and one will end up really becoming like a billionaire or president, and the other one will be struggling? And the billionaire, the president, it's the end result of a process. People just don't become that overnight, So I want to tell people here who have not known you for 20 years that Deji has always been fantastic. He's always had his glasses. And he's always,
glasses.
and he's always been a fantastic guy, and I'm very privileged to know you. Thank you for doing this.
The feeling is mutual. Thank you very much, MT.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.